Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of Voices of Influence. We're continuing on the topic around building thought leadership. And today we're double clicking on early stage entrepreneurship, specifically for companies who are in the fundraising stage. And to talk to us about this topic, we have Victoria. Victoria, welcome to our show.
Hi, Arjun. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, Victoria. So I know that you're a founder yourself. Maybe just talk to us a little bit about Startup Station and what prompted you to start that. And tell us a bit more about your founder journey.
Sure. I started the Startup Station after quitting my job on Wall Street. I wanted to try something new, entrepreneurial. I wasn't satisfied in my job because it lacked the creative aspect that I think I really wanted to feel passionate about. Startup Station is my second venture. The first one was in the media and entertainment business. And there I was solving a similar problem where I was helping producers finance and distribute their movies. Now, that venture is part of my founder's journey. That was my first failure. That venture wasn't successful. I made a lot of mistakes as a first-time entrepreneur. I tried to raise too much money. I didn't find the product market fit. I didn't validate the people that I worked with. But it was, for me, foundational because up to that point in my life, I never really failed. And everything was going my way. And then I believe that my ego got in the way of seeing some of the things that were conflicting with my view of how things should work, and and the markets work differently. And so the fact that I failed and I had to face the fact that I let everybody down and I wasted not wasted, but I've spent my time, I invested some money. It was very traumatic, but very impactful because it allowed me to grow. It allowed me to develop humility. And then it allowed me to start the company that I still own to this day. And in this company, I was able to help many people. And the problem that I'm solving in a Startup Station is very similar. Just like producers are very passionate about their movies and what they're making and how would they impact the world, startup founders are passionate about the products that they want to bring to the market, whether it's a technology product, whether it's a physical product, whether it's a service, it doesn't matter. Everybody who is a founder wants to change the world in some meaningful way. That's why we do it. That's why we do something that other people think are crazy. However, because most founders do not come from the business world, very often they do not think enough about how to bring their product to market, where their product is financially feasible, how to explain to investors how to build a business out of their idea, et cetera, et cetera. And now the Startup Station serves as that tool to help founders when they're fundraising to communicate to investors why their venture is going to make money, how they're going to execute, what defines success, what metrics should be tracked. And then after they have raised the money, to continue to track their performance so that they are intelligent about it and they can quickly react to market feedback. Finance is always a topic that is very scary for people. It seems confusing. There are a lot of terms that people do not understand. And so part of the mission of the Startup Station is to demystify finance and to empower all founders to learn how to use it to drive their business forward. Finance really is the language with which the company speaks to you. So it's not possible to succeed if you are afraid of it. Because your company should make money, you should be very friendly with what allows you to make money, which is finance. The other part of the Startup Station, as you may have gathered, is education. So I'm very passionate about educating founders. I teach a lot. I do a lot of speaking engagements. We create a lot of free content to introduce some of the introductory concepts and terms to those founders who are just beginning on their journey so that this journey is easier for them.
Love it. This is exciting. And I think as a first-time startup founder who had no idea about finances earlier on in my previous startup, and then go on to starting this company, I know how much of a nerve wrack it is to go through all these terms and everything. So I think you're doing a service definitely for early stage, especially first-time founders for sure. Tell me a little bit more about what it took for you to get from 0 to 1, right? Because you're a startup, you have to get your customers, which are early stage entrepreneurs, And how did you find the first set of people who would want to use your service? And how do you offer it? Is this a service? Is this coaching? Like, what kind of product do you actually offer to them?
Sure. So to answer the first question, how did I get my first customers? After my film venture failed, I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. And I did even attempt to go and talk to some recruiters before I realized that my heart wasn't in it and I really wanted to start another venture. And
Right.
as I was talking to different people, I met two guys who were starting a mobile design and development company. And that was around more than 10 years ago when those things were just starting out. They weren't, it wasn't something that was so commonplace like it is now. And I found out about a class called that was taught at Stanford Business School called Startup Boards. And I wanted to
Mm.
take that class, but I needed to take it with a company that I no longer had. So I
Mm.
offered them to take a class together. And as we were taking a
Mm.
class together, I became their strategic advisor. And then further, I became their chief financial officer, chief strategy officer, and began working with them. And I worked with them for 10 months, bringing them from pre revenue to revenue and helping them define their pricing strategy, their client acquisition strategy, their growth strategy, etc. And after that, I set up the startup station. But having that time and also having the 2 years from my first venture, which failed, allowed me to build an initial network where my first clients came for the startup station from the word of mouth. And so,
Mm.
but eventually, word of mouth is not going to get you far. So eventually, the word of mouth dried. And what I did after is I created my own meetup in New York, which grew to 3,000 people in New York and 1,000 in Boston. And I began teaching finance to entrepreneurs. I had
Mm.
classes of 15 to 20 people. I was getting spaces from law firms, consulting firms, accounting firms, wealth management firms. Soon I was filling boardrooms of 40 founders that
Oh.
all wanted to learn about valuation and startup finance and accounting, all the things that you find confusing. I was teaching 3 hour finance classes for $25. So for me, it was, I was making a little bit of money. The people who came, they were serious because they were paying. I did not do it for free. But it was really a business development opportunity for me because in the 3 hours, they can't really learn finance. But what they can learn is that I know finance and that they need to know it if they want to succeed. And so I used it as a great client conversion tool for many years, paying $15 a month to meetup.com. And
Mm-hmm.
then in the time, I began producing more of the free content and build the thought leadership and developed the client referral network. And so now I get my clients, through all of the other sources as well as continuous speaking engagements.
I love it. So you were doing the idea of like sort of creating content while in real world with like meetups, and like that's kind of like how you got started. And I love that strategy because it showed the hustle. It showed that there was like a value over there because there are people who are like buying tickets to be there at those meetups, which is pretty great. And at some point of time, you decided that like you want to build your brand around this, and like you started to like, which was already happening as you were like doing these classes. How did you like start building thought leadership around this? When did you say that like I need to make a conscious effort to be known as the person who knows enough about like early stage startup finance?
I believe that I became a thought leader in the process. I was learning about the space. I come from Wall Street, from the world of the publicly traded companies, big revenues, billions of dollars. That's why my first raise was 165 million, because it didn't seem like a big raise for Wall Street. It just was a very
Wow.
big raise for the first company. So of course, it didn't happen. But mathematically, it made sense to me. And then, in my mindset at that time, I didn't see a problem, which of course there was. So I became a thought leader because I began working with startups and I started developing my own methodology of how to specifically model pre-revenue startups. There was a lot of questions about how to estimate demand. I used my computer science background in order to build models that were like brains of the company and that really allowed to connect the strategic decisions to financial outcomes and to allow founders to see the effects of their decisions of various parts of the company. And as you begin executing on a model like that, it has a very good predictability, and it can give you a lot of intelligence by isolating specifically which decisions produce which financial results, which makes you more intelligent in terms of responding to market feedback. Now, in terms of becoming a thought leader, at first I was creating content based on demand. The more I was teaching, the more I was getting questions in terms of what people
Right.
didn't understand. The more I was teaching, I knew from the questions I was getting asked in the workshops what was unclear. So I began creating content around that. It was more driven by demand. And the more I started modeling different companies and different businesses and really honing on my methodology, it helped me to become a thought leader. And since I was always getting clients through content, I just continued to do it as part of my strategy going forward as well as part of my commitment to serve an entrepreneurial community to help them
Right.
in their journey.
Yeah. No, I think the point that you mentioned about using your questions that you're getting in these interaction with your existing customers and developing content for that is like the standard, like classic strategy that I think everybody should be doing. Like we talk about this every time, and we talk to early stage founders as well, as to like, I don't know what to create content for, and like people keep saying that, and then you realize that like you go to your sales calls and like the questions that you ask, and then like how can you convert that into content? So that's amazing that you were already doing that ahead of time. I'm kind of curious about your the channels that you took, right? Like obviously your first channel was in real life, meeting people in person. How has that evolved over time? I want to talk about your content creation process, but before that, let me actually ask you about like how do you now distribute your content, if not for like in real life meetings?
So right now we have presence on all the major social media platforms. I have over 100 YouTube videos on various, with various financial modeling scenarios, work through strategic financial tips, fundraising tips, etc. We post content regularly on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. My most presence is in LinkedIn. I have a monthly blog and a lot of, also like, I don't know, 150 blog articles on various topics. There's more videos. Not all of them are converted into blogs on my YouTube channel. So I would say when when I began creating my presence, I was taking all the people who came to my workshops and I was getting their emails. So I was creating an email list. And also, I was asking everybody to post review about the meetup. So I started getting a lot
Mm.
of testimonials. I was also offering free 30-minute consultations, again, as a way to get clients because, you can't really get a lot of value out of 30 minutes, just an initial indication of the depth of your problems. But the deal was that you get a consultation, but you have to post a review if you like the results. And so very quickly, I had a lot of credibility from various students and clients, clients that I gave consultation, which allowed me to get real clients. And from real clients, I was very good about soliciting testimonials in both LinkedIn and for my website. So now I have over 50. Not everybody obviously gave a testimonial. Sometimes people, more private, or the engagement was very short, whatever it is. But I have now on my website over 50 testimonials from various people, which is
Right.
a lot. And it speaks to the quality of work that I'm doing. Now, so this is how the content started. So over time, I built a 14-hour curriculum and then began doing more of the free content, which started with, I believe, YouTube videos. And then I started translating YouTube videos into, no, when I started, it was this. It was a video and a blog post that would go together that we would then post across the social media platforms. So we had a monthly process. We would produce 4 videos and out of the one blog post, and then we would convert this blog post into 4 social media posts on a weekly basis. I had an assistant who did that, so I would produce the videos, and then she would write a blog based on the videos that I would then check, and then she would do the rest of the work. Now the process has changed a little bit, where I do not do the videos anymore, which may change
Mm.
after our conversation. So I write the blog and it gets converted into emails and social media posts with the help of my marketing team, and they take care of all the operations. So even from 2018, I had the process where we had a content calendar. We would think of the topics of what we wanted to talk about in advance, and we would produce content at least with the 2 week cycle. So we have time to write content and edit it, and there's no stress because I'm a very organized person, and the last thing I want is to have any problems, in terms of
Right.
stress that can be avoided. So that's how I've been doing it. We've tried various things over the years in terms of posting in different rubrics or taking, posting to more platforms or less platforms. At the end of the day, for the SEO, we decided it's better to post on all the platforms, even if most followers are on LinkedIn. So this is what we do, and we continue to produce content regularly for our brand awareness, to add value to the entrepreneurial community, and to increase our search rankings.
I love it. No, I think this is your topic on like channels and how for SEO purposes it makes sense for you to have your content in many channels, irrespective of whether you're only like focusing on one of them. It's better to have presence in all of them. That's very, very great. I mean, like we're seeing this across the board as well. I'd love to know a little bit more about your process. I know that like there is you briefly mentioned that like you had a team and then you would then like go on to like come up with an idea and then you would create this video. Tell me a little bit more about like the source for these ideas, right? Like, so you, one source which you great is that like you're talking to people, you're conducting these classes, questions come up, and that's like one source of like ideas that you're going to generate. How is that translated right now when you're largely using social media, when there is just not too much of like feedback, or like sometimes there's comments, sometimes there's like people who are commenting on your post and everything, but like what is the feedback mechanism you're getting? What is the source of your ideas of like this would make sense for your audience?
Yeah, there have been moments in my life over the past few years when I was like, will I run out of ideas of how many times can you talk about cash flow? But it turns out that imagination is boundless. And then
Okay.
there is always something to talk about from a little bit of a new angle. And even if you say the same thing in a little bit of a different ways, you always reach a new audience, because this is a topic that is still very confusing to people. Even a simple subject like what is the difference between cash flow or income, or if you are talking about, many startup founders do not understand how to project pre-revenue demand so that it has credibility, or they do not understand the purpose of the financial model, where they ask me questions: how do I know what my results are going to be, or how do I know how many customers I'm going to have? That is not the question that a financial model can answer. It's not a crystal ball, it's a planning tool. So you have to work out what your plan is based on everything you know in terms of your go-to-market strategy and your presence strategy and your labor constraints and your capital constraints, like how much time and how much money you can put into this effort, so that you can project what that's going to turn into and set a realistic sales baseline that you can use as a yardstick against measuring what you're going to execute. If you don't have it, you're like a person in the forest without a compass. Will you get out to the clearing? Maybe you will, and maybe you won't. But if you don't know where you're going, most likely you're not going to get there. It's possible you will. A lot of founders do not like to set their goals when they're too early. That's a mistake. You should always set your goals. Even if you don't have the information, you're going to learn along the way what are some of the assumptions that you made that were potentially incorrect. It's okay for the assumptions to be challenged in the future. That is the point of the plan, right? You create a plan and you adjust it, because any financial plan is a living document, right? Because the company evolves, it's a baby that grows up to hopefully to be an adult and go public, or whatever the goal for the exit is, maybe stay private or be acquired, whatever that is. But it evolves, it can't stay static. If a model is not used, there's no use to the model, right? If the model stays and nobody looks at it until the next race, that's a wasted opportunity to get intelligence into your business. But a lot of founders don't get it. They think that they have to know something, they have to guess. There's no guesswork. You plan. If I want to make $1 million in year one, what has to happen? How many customers should I convert? What does it mean per
Right.
month? Can I do it based on where I am? If I can't do it, then my goal is not achievable.
Right. No, I can almost like, I'm in like two minds right now. One, I'm almost like lured into this topic about financial planning and everything, even though I'm like here trying to talk about like content creation process. Like I'm almost like, because I can sense the passion in what you're saying, and video is like a very compelling medium because I'm like hearing you and I'm like, oh, that's spinning wheels in my head. And I'm probably like telling myself that like I should set up some other time to like talk to Victoria specifically about this because there's some interesting things going on. But at the same time, to your point, you can get imaginative and creative about these topics. And if you are so passionate about it, you can like spin it in many different ways, and like you're able to like present that to a different type of audience, which is great because that's the other thing, right? Like I think you're very capable of like expressing your ideas in video and everything. I'm curious, one question that I have, and then like we're jumping into like more early stage entrepreneurs who are like fundraising and like tips for them.
Yes.
What first question that I have for that is like, you're very natural at like being on video and like doing this. Not many people are. Like, so what do you think is like the first thing that you would recommend for these people with regards to building their brand for fundraising? Because there is a little bit of brand value and everything that helps with fundraising as well. So probably give me your thoughts on that.
Sure. So I will say I will answer first why I'm natural on video. So that is not did not happen in the beginning.
Okay.
I when I'm talking to somebody, I was always natural because I spent 8 years on stage. So I have acting
Mm.
background. So it definitely helps to have public speaking background or to start speaking publicly. But if you weren't exposed to that through your work or through your personal experiences, it's okay to just start speaking on camera. However, I had challenges with speaking on camera without an audience, and I actually took a class for
Mm.
a YouTube strategy where I had to imagine that a camera was a person and I was talking to somebody. Sometimes I would put a
Mm.
photo of my son next to the camera, so I would talk to my son. I would talk to somebody that I know, so it would not be that I would not be like a robot. And now I'm going to say something with a very excited
Right.
and stone face, so that I'm a little more natural. I can look away and I can smile and I can take a pause, just like when you were speaking. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay to do this thing. So I've been doing it for a very long time, and I'm a
Mm.
very natural because of my acting background and my extroverted personality. This is and also because I love doing it. I love
Right.
speaking. I love teaching. I'm very passionate about making finance accessible. I think people have a lot of people have a weird. This is what I would say: if you're an entrepreneur, in order for your passion to come through, you have to overcome whatever fears you have about your business
Mm.
not happening first. I would say the
Mm.
first thing that any early stage entrepreneur has to work on is their mindset. Nobody says that
Mm.
it's a mistake. You need to know why you're doing it. You need to start training your mind every day that you're going to succeed, because this journey is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and it's going to be hard. And you need to train your mind to react properly to ups and downs, to overwhelm, to managing conflict, to disappointments, to failures, so that you don't quit. This venture doesn't happen, you do something else. If you have to pivot, then you're gonna do it. If you have to talk to 100 people before you get to a yes, that's fine. You don't care, because you know deep inside that your idea, like the main thing, like the reason why you started, works. How exactly you're going to do it doesn't matter. If you get too
Mm.
stuck on how exactly you're going to do it, if you're going to refuse the help of others because you think you want to do everything yourself, or you know everything yourself, you're going to be set for failure, because nobody succeeds on their own. But failure, everybody does very successfully on their own. So I would say, if you are fundraising, start working on your mindset. It's a critical. One thing everybody
Mm.
should read is a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and question their relationship with money. Specifically, all the
Mm.
people entrepreneurs out there, you may have some conflicting feelings about money. Maybe in your family, we were told things like, we're not about the money. Money is not important. It's bad to want money. Maybe you come from
Mhm.
an environment where there was scarcity of money. It's not going to help you when you're trying to raise money, build $1 billion business. If you have any bad feelings about money, you're not even going to think far. You're not going to dream big. You're not going to attempt to dream, to build businesses which can impact so many lives. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you're starting something, that is what you want. You want to bring your idea to as many people out there as possible. So I would say mindset, question your feelings about money and start training your mind, and then address all your weak spots. Not everybody needs to know finance, marketing, operations, sales, product development, etc. Build your team, build your advisors, find your mentors as early as possible. Get inspired by people who've achieved a lot so they can remove whatever blocks you have in terms of what is possible and what is not possible. What is possible for you in that stage, what is right, what is wrong. Only you decide ultimately what is it that you're capable of. Only you can set bounds for yourself.
Love it. Setting the right mindset and taking help where it's needed are like really, really important
Getting the
things.
help, learning finance is very important. That's a very weak point in fundraising.
Right,
People do not understand their financials and they don't raise the money.
right. From perspective of like brand building, which is kind of what we're talking about over here in terms of uh, there is a little bit of um, thought leadership and everything early on in the founder's journey. How much of that helps with fundraising?
If you can establish yourself as an expert in your field, then of course it
Hmm.
helps you to have credibility that you really know the problem that you are addressing, that you really understand the customer, that you really understand the market. So if you are an outspoken expert in this field, if you go in and you feature it in conferences, it adds to your clout as a founder and it adds to the credibility for you in terms of everything that you're saying for the investor. Ultimately, of course, it's not enough. They want to see a
Right.
team, they want to see a product, they want to see traction. And I've now found final evidence from investors that they want to see certain personality traits that will set you up for
Mm,
success. And it goes back to the mindset. And they're going to evaluate these questions, these traits, by asking you certain questions and
mm,
see how you respond. You and your team, how well you work with your team is critical. This is one of the reasons why most startups fail when you have a conflict with the co-founders. Execution risk is huge. So if you prefer to do everything yourself, that's a problem. If you cannot convince one other person to work with you, why? It doesn't need to be 50% co-founder, but why doesn't anybody want to believe in what you're doing? Why do you asking then other people
right.
to give you money? And sometimes I personally work with founders who tell me they don't need a co-founder. The question is why? What are they
Mm,
afraid of? Is that are they afraid to lose control? Are they afraid that they're going to screw everything up? Then how are you going to trust? Let's forget about a co-founder, an executive. That's going to be the same issues that preventing them to trust somebody early on will prevent them to do well in hiring, and they'll create a culture of fear instead of creating a culture of trust. And so these are very deep issues that go back to the mindset that not only I'm saying you should be do it because that's going to make your company successful. Investors recognized that a long time ago, and so they're looking for these qualities as well.
got it. Got it. That makes a lot of sense. I'd say like you've given a lot of tips. If there's just one takeaway that you want to suggest for early stage entrepreneurs, what is that one thing that you would say? This is the last question just before we wrap up.
I would say start training your mind, find a
Mm,
mentor, and find a peer support group so that you feel supported and you feel surrounded by people going through the same thing so you do not feel alone.
love it. Victoria, this was a pleasure talking to you. I think that your passion comes through, and like I can sense so many interesting things that you said in this topic that would be
And I
very
didn't
relevant
quite
for our audience.
reply to some of the questions, I think, but it's okay.
Right. Yeah. I know that like we had questions that are more around brand building and content process, but like many of your passion of about finance and early stage entrepreneurship like came through
The brand
more
building, I'm
stronger.
not really a person that can speak to the brand building. I can
Right.
speak more. They need to be a subject matter expert if they're building a
Right.
company. If they're not, they shouldn't be building it.
Right. Yeah. No.
Well,
Yeah.
somebody
That.
should be. A child millionaire company should be the subject matter expert. Maybe not the
Love it.
that specific person. Because there are several roles in a company that are equally important. But somebody should be the subject matter expert who's like, I know that's a problem and I'm passionate about that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Thanks so much for this discussion. I know this was a pretty wide-ranging topics, and I loved many tips that you had suggested to early-stage entrepreneurs, especially like about the mindset shift. I think it took several years to get to that, and I think I wish I had known this like much sooner as well. But
Me
like, yeah,
too.
I think
I
that
wish somebody had told
yeah,
me at the beginning of my journey, but I think part of the problem is that a lot of people in the beginning of their journey, they just feel like they need customers, or they need money, or they don't need the mindset. And it's only when you fail a
right,
few times, then you would be like,
right.
maybe I should have
Absolutely,
focused on,
yeah,
should have had done some things differently. So that's why, one thing I didn't mention is that I'm very passionate about empowering female founders, and we're running a program on
right,
building basically female founder mindset gym, which is a
right,
combination of providing financial training, money conscious, making them aware about their relationship with money, their feelings about money, and unblocking them, as well as training their mind. And so I'm very passionate
got it.
about the link between your mind and the financial results, like, because there is a direct link and people don't talk about that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Awesome,
For you,
Victoria. This was a
next
pleasure
one,
talking to you.
into female founders.
Yeah, we should talk about that in a separate session for sure. Like that's a big topic and it's very important in itself. So thanks so much, Victoria. Again, I appreciate you being in the show. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. And then you'll send me, what's the next step? You're going to send me the